To start the process of connecting records to user, the first thing we need to do is to update the model. So let's go back to our model here, model.py. We just add a new line here, which is the owner. Basically, what we are doing here is we are trying to say this owner or this person would be the owner of this record. So let's make sure we import want to make sure we import user. We're importing user from contrib.auth.models, and once we do that, we save it and close it off. Then we go to the serializer. Now for the serializer, we want to add the owner down here. We want to make sure that we are telling it that we now want the owner to be associated with this record. So it is serializers dot read only field, and we're telling him that the source of this owner is owner.username, like that. Then we save it. Once we've saved it, we can close this off, and then if you try to perform anything now, it's just going to throw an error for you. So what we want to do is to drop the database. So let's drop database, and we're using this command. We're using this command rm-f, then what you want to delete. All right. We'll also do the same thing for the list of migrations we already have. So let's just do the same thing, rm-r, and then the path to the migrations. Great. So now that we've done these two, we'll just run make another migration and run a new migration, basically. So we are doing a Python migrate.py migration, make migrations, student app, and then finally we do Python manage.py migrate to remigrate, and then now we have all our migrations running. So now that everything is running, let's just run our server again. Everything is working as we planned. So let's navigate to admin and try to log in. So if we try to log in, notice it throws an error, which means there's nothing in our database. It doesn't recognize us. So let's go back here. We want to create a super user. So let's try to do that. I want to try to create a super user quickly. Okay, so create super user. As usual, we just do admin. Yeah, we good, like so. Then now that we have this, let's just run our server again and go back. Let's go back and try to log in again. So let's try to log in again, and this time around it works. For our students, we have 0 students. For our user, we have just the admin. So this is a blank slate for us to start. It also means that before we'll be able to create a particular record, we need to have a user logged in. All right. So now that we have those two out of our way, we now want to go and change the way we save a particular record. So it's not just going to be saving students, it's going to be saving students with reference to the owner. And this is what we just need this particular line. So we'll just copy this particular line and replace what we already have back there. Once you're done copying, you could just join me and paste it, or you could also just type it out. So let's go back to students, and down here where you save, so instead of just saving and saying student.save, so we do student.save, and then we pass in the owner as a parameter, passing the request.user. The request.user is a logged in user. Now if it is null or a user is not logged in, that means that owner does not exist at that time. Now up here inside of the students, where we retrieve all the students, we don't want to retrieve all the students. We want to filter students based off on the logged in user. So instead of this, we now want to do objects.filter. So once you do your filter and pass in the owner like this, so what it means is anytime you now retrieve, you try to retrieve, you will only be able to retrieve those logged in, sorry, those ones that you created while you were logged in. All right, now that we have this out of the way, let's come down here, and we want to put a check here. So to say if student, what we're checking here is if student detail.owner, that is this student we retrieve here, is equivalent to request.student, but we want to make sure that we're specific and say username like that, and here too username like so, sorry, dot username. we want to make sure that this username match before we'll be able to do anything on this particular record. So before we even retrieve a record, we want to make sure that the detail they are getting match what we already have for that particular record. All right. So now this will work, but we want to even add another layer of permission authorization like that to this particular users. So what we want to do is on top of here we want to add more decorators. So let's put it below the API view. So we want to do authentication classes like that, and we need to make sure we import this and session authentication. Working with Copilot makes a lot of things easy, by the way. So all right, so I didn't have to type all of this. So authentication classes, and it takes in these two parameters, and then the permission classes, and it takes in this one parameter also. Okay, so let's make sure we import everything that we put in down there. So from REST framework authentication, we're importing token authentication and session authentication. Then from REST framework permissions, we are importing is authenticated. All right, so now that we have this, I think we are good to go. We can now go and test. There are a lot of ways you could check for this. You could even just come here and say something like request dot user dot is authenticated, something like that. So dot is authenticated, I think that should be with an underscore or something like that. So once you check any of this out, anyone that works for you, but this is like how it's supposed to be. Okay, so let's save this and then let's move to our test.rest, and we want to try out what we've built so far. All right, okay, so far we've been able to log in, log out, and all of that. So let's create test endpoint for getting all students. We want to get all students, not all users. So students like that. And so what we want to do is, of course, do a get, and then let's complete it from here. We'll change this to students, and the content type. So this requires authentication. If we try this, we should of course get an error. This is get all students. Let me check. Oh, we didn't import the authentication classes as it should be. So let's make sure we import that. So let's import authentication classes and permission classes. So let's save that and then go back. We're importing this from decorators. Now we could make this a one line and just move it up instead of having multiple lines like this. So let's just get rid of this. Those are decorators. So let's save this and try again. So let's try again and see what happens. Now we get an internal server error. So what could be the problem this time around? So let's check. I'm expecting that I should ask for permission. Anyway, the issue actually comes from not putting this guard on here. So we're supposed to guard this particular view, that is the student view. So we just moved our guard, the decorators here, the authentication class and the permission classes. We just copied it and added it here. So now it should work when you add a valid token. So let's give it a shot this time around. So this is an already expired token. So let's log in again. Let me make sure I log out. Let me make sure I log out. So log out. I think I might need to also restart my server or something. This token doesn't exist, so no need. Let's just log in again. Let's try to log in again. Let me create a new user. Let me just make it 2 here and 2 here, right? and let's create a new user. So a new user has been created for us. So let's try to log in. I guess the other user was logged in, and the token needs to be logged out or something. So let's paste here and paste here. This is for logout, but we're not logging out. So let's paste this here rather, and get rid of this last quote at the end here. So once we do this, this should work. So send request, and then we are getting an empty array, which means it is returning what we have, and we have nothing inside of the database. So now let's copy this and then add to the database. So we are adding or creating students. So let's do create students like this, and then we want to pass in what we need. So what we need first is name. We need email. So we could just do sam@gmail.com. Let's make sure I spell this correctly. Email, and then a comma, then about. That should just be fine. Yeah, can just add my last name and save this, and then try to create. This should be post, by the way, post. So let's try to create, and also on this create, and we're seeing that the owner is Samson2, which is this particular username that is logged in. So let's try to create another user too. Let's create one more. Let's create one more of this. So we could just do like that, and create. It creates the second one. Notice that the name is different. Okay, so now for me to be able to retrieve this user, I need to be logged in. So when I try to get users, the students, I get the two students that I've created. But let's say I pass in a wrong token. So let's change this, or let's just add something else here and try again. Notice that it tells me invalid token. All right. Now even if I'm actually logged in, it will tell me unauthorized. All right. So to get what I am saying now, if you try to retrieve students, we get number 2 and number 3. All right. So what we'll do now is we create another user, or log in another user, and then we try to retrieve and see what happens. Okay, so let's try to log in this person this time around. Didn't work. Let's just create a new person. So we could just change this to EB like that. Samson Ebere is fine. And then let's try to log Samson Ebere in. Okay, we didn't even log out the last person. So let's make sure we log out the last person. So you do a logout so that I have a logout success. And then let's try to log in Samson Ebere. We try to log in internal server error. Why are we getting internal server error? Not sure why this is happening. All right, I think those other users are invalid or something. Let's change the email also and change this to a bearer, and then try to create. Now we created. I think the email also needs not to be duplicated so that you don't run into errors. All right, so let's try to log in. Awesome. So this is logged in. Beautiful. So let's come down here and try to retrieve all the users again. So if I try to get all users, it tells me invalid token because I've generated a new token and the other token is expired. So now let me paste in this token now, which is valid, and then try again. And you see it returns an empty array, which means that it is returning details from the database, but I do not have any detail in the database. So let's try to create. So I would add the token here and try to create another user, E2. So we send, it creates, and for 5 creates. So let's try to retrieve again. You see it's retrieving only those users that are connected to it and not any other particular user. All right, then let's try this for a single user, a single student. All right, so I want to get detail of just one student. So you recall that each of them has an ID, and currently this particular user that is logged in has only 4 and 5, but I want to try say 2 and see what happens. So I'll just get for the number 2, and it tells us 401 unauthorized. All right, but if we try this for 4 and 5, it should work. So you see, it's getting only what is related to it, which means that what we have done is correct and it's working. So if you choose to update this, it should also work perfectly as it should be. And that is how we conclude this tutorial for today. We've been able to look at authentication for if you are using REST framework, which is very, very necessary. Well, in our last tutorial, we also looked at Django authentication without any package, and just anything you want, authentication is very important. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you were able to get the whole picture. I would add as much information as possible in the description, and the repo will be there. My previous tutorials too should be there. Please like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next tutorial.